Good morning, redheaded step family and visitors. Let me make sure I got my microphones. Yes, I do. My microphone is on. All right. This is all good news. Very, very wonderfully good news. I'm going to start out by mentioning some ironic craziness. We're finding that these Tesla protests are being organized and paid for by George Soros. George Soros, have you ever seen his early 1990s interview with, who was that from ABC News? It was a big interview where he admits and he is proud of the part that he played in the Nazi Party as a 14-year-old boy who helped hunt down other Jews in his town and report them, and he was paid a part. He was given part of their family fortune. So he would rat out, if you don't know the story behind George Soros, that he was adopted by a Nazi at 12 or 13 or 14. At 14 years old, the way he started his billions was by ratting out other Jews. We have found out, we have come to we now know that there are, I've been saying it forever, but there are two very different types of Jews, like there are two very different types of Christians. There's actually 20 different kinds of Christians, but there's Christians that do things that aren't in the Bible, like the rosary isn't anywhere in the Bible. And then there are Christians that only do things that are in the Bible. And I'm not putting down anybody's religion. I'm just pointing out there are differences. We have found out that there are Jews that are more Satan-based and magic-based. And then there are that just go by the book. And George Soros was one of those Jews that was not really by the book. And he made his money working for the Nazi Party, starting at the age of 14, finding Jews in his town, reporting them, and then receiving a portion of their fortune as they were loaded onto trains and moved out. So this is the guy that's funding and we got really good stories, big fun stories here, very happiness. You're going to be done with this in 5 minutes and be very happy. Let me finish this. So George Soros, the actual Nazi, is funding the protests against Elon Musk, a South African, and all of these sad morons are holding signs accusing a South African of being a Nazi when they're being paid to stand there and protest by an actual Nazi. And there's no way to tell them. There's no way you're never going to convince them that even if you play the interview on ABC News from the early 90s of George Soros being very proud, and he says, if I didn't do it, somebody else would have. If I didn't rat out my own people and take a part of their fortune as payment for doing so, someone else would have taken that opportunity to do that. I wouldn't have done it. I know most of you wouldn't have done it. You would not send people to their death for your own. I mean, how sick of a human do you have to be to do that? Another problem before we jump into the news. I do have a clip of George Soros touting that Supreme Court Justice Roberts has a bag full of tricks that Donald Trump needs to be worried about. And I'll put that up in a YouTube short later. Why does George Soros have any conversation about anything going on with the government with a Supreme Court justice? Why would Clarence Thomas sit down and talk to me about angles that they're going to take down the black hats? He would never do that. That would be extremely inappropriate for any Supreme Court judge to have any conversation with a citizen, even ones that weren't born here, that are not natural, like George Soros. And for George Soros to come out bragging that Justice Roberts is going to, has a bag of tricks that he has planned for the demise of Donald Trump. Speaking of Justice Roberts, yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, late yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4. It's 9, right? Yeah. 5-4, with Roberts siding with the communist judges. And what's her name? It's leaving me now. The other one that we've been worried about that was appointed by Trump, she actually sided with the Republican conservative judges, that all of the court cases against Donald Trump are unlawful. That a judge, and they pointed out that there have been 86 cases brought against Donald Trump that were all unlawful, in which, and these are cases in which they broadly, the judge ruled that across the board, nationwide, that Donald Trump cannot execute any of his endeavors, like Doge, for instance. So what the Supreme Court said is that no federal judge can make a ruling that affects the entire country. They can only make a ruling based on the people standing in front of them. So, for instance, with the teachers union or the Department of Education, 2 people brought that lawsuit. So it was Donald Trump versus the 2 people. And then the judge ruled that you can't fire these people, and you have to stay, that his ruling stayed for every single person losing their job across the country. Supreme Court ruled that that's not, you can't do that. It's not a thing. Okay. So, and what the hell is the name of it? A unilateral blanket decision. So they've done this to Trump 86 times, which is 4 times more than any of these unilateral decisions have been made in the previous 100 years. So from 1901 to 1999, judges have only done that 4 times, so 20 times. 86 times it's happened to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump does not have to bring home any of the Trendy Aragua or MS-13 guys. Donald Trump can go ahead with Doge. Donald Trump can do whatever the hell he wants. And there is no law that allows a judge to make these unilateral, broadband, nationwide decisions. It's actually not, it's something that they made up. So, in the case that, if many of you who are with me long enough know that you can write to the bar a complaint, and there are 4 or 5 very good videos on YouTube that show you how to write a bar complaint. It's very short, it's very simple, but you have to be very careful on your wording, and they show you how to be careful. You have to make your point. You have to say how it affects people. You have to say, they give you this very easy outline to fill. And the bar cannot ignore the letter. They actually have to take the judge or the lawyer. He can't perform any court cases. This is a power that any American has. If you live in California, you can make a complaint about a judge in D.C. You can make a complaint as long as your complaint has the three important points in it: what they did wrong, who it affected, and I forget the third one. You can literally do that. I totally believe we did take Letitia James and put her in the back, and she was not allowed to sit at the table with the lawyers, because after we sat down and learned as a group how to do it, A week and a half, 2 weeks later, she was no longer sitting at the lawyer's table. She was behind the bar. She was sitting in the galley with the viewers. Another important point. If you go back to Donald Trump's very first, he was answering questions from reporters on Air Force One. That was at 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening. Earlier that day, many of us made phone calls to the White House asking for him to pull FCC licenses from the networks that were using the networks in a improper way, in an unlawful way, and delivering bad information to our loved ones. That night, in that live stream of him on Air Force One answering those questions, he said exactly that. He said, for instance, you know how you ask him a question and he'll answer 3 questions? You know how Donald Trump kind of does that? In that interview, which is only like 7 or 10 minutes long, if you go back and watch the very first one on Air Force One, where he slides open the door and he sticks his head out and he talks to the reporters, he says, for instance, like the networks, using the networks as a weapon against the people of the United States, which is exactly what we talked about that day. So don't think for 1 second that what your little move doesn't affect others greatly. You could choose from any of these 4 judges. You could write a bar complaint. You don't have to be a genius to do it because they teach you how to do it on YouTube, how to write a bar complaint. Watch 3 videos, take the best information if you'd like, and make a complaint against one of these judges. We, the people, have more power against these judges than anyone else because we could take them out. But it would take an act, if we don't do it, it would take an act of Congress to do it. So they got to get together more than 50%, and I think it's 66 or 67% of Congress would have to vote to take that judge out. When we can do it with 1 letter, he cannot perform his job. He can't do anything lawful, he or she, until the investigation's over. So they're out. They're out of work. They can't do anything. They can't have anything to do with any cases whatsoever while they're under investigation with the bar. And then you get a letter back with their final decision. Any one person in the country has that power. Here's the big fun story. Big fun. Now, a couple people knew I was going to do this. I didn't do it. I'm pretty well known for my prank phone calls, and I was going to call Jasmine Crockett's office and say that there was an attempt on Elon's life. There was gunfire, and the shooter said that he did it for Jasmine's birthday, which makes her an accessory to attempted murder, racketeering, RICO, blah, blah, blah. Hundreds of big charges that would put her in prison for decades. I didn't do that. But what has happened is that somehow in 18 months, she's been in that job in the state of representatives for 18 months. And somehow she has purchased 3 homes for a grand total of a little over $10 million. She purchased 1 home for $5 million. She got a nice lake house for $2.5 million. And she bought another 3rd house for like $2.4 million. Here's where it gets fun. Elon wants to know where that money came from. How did a woman that has only been in a job for a year and a half, who makes $176,000 a year, get the money to purchase 3 homes for $10 million? Sounds a little fishy to me. On top of that, let's see, the Jasmine, and what was the other good one? Oh, there's one more. It's a Jasmine, 10 million, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember. I'll put it in a YouTube short. Michigan Swamp Hopper, good morning. Poe is in the house. And good morning, everybody. Poe Time says good evening. They played. You know why? Poe, I found out why the methylene blue isn't working for you. It's people with dark skin. It may not work for because they don't have the problem with their mitochondria. If you're following us on the Fun Channel, I am the guinea pig. I am about to end my first month on methylene blue. I am on my third bottle. I am buying a $19 bottle off of Amazon, and I'm very happy with the product. And Mr. Poe did not find the same effects, but Mr. Poe, where's your thumbs up, buddy? But Mr. Poe may not be feeling the effects because he has a darker skin tone than the rest of us. So that may be why, sir. And also, I can't say who. Somebody in the chat ran as a Democrat, but they're a Republican. And they didn't win, but they were appointed by the winner into a position. So that's another game that we could play in small town government. If you are in a very small town that may be mostly Democrat, register as Democrat, act as Republican. We've already got that happening with Justice Roberts, right? And what was the other thing? I can't remember, so I'm not going to keep you too long. But those three stories should, guys, make you happy. Supreme Court has ruled 100% in Donald Trump's favor. Nobody could stop Doge. Nobody could stop what he's doing. Michigan Swamp Hopper says, ha ha ha, good job, man. Awesome idea, Red. All right. Thank you guys very much. Have a beautiful day. I'm going to go find an adventure that I can go on so I can bring you some content on the Fun Channel. And why not fall asleep to a playlist? If you go on to the main page of the Fun Channel, each season has its own playlist. Fall asleep to a playlist tonight. Maybe we could bump those videos to get out to people who actually search for those types of videos. If there's a little bump, maybe they'll start, if they put me in front of some of these other YouTubers that go around and, go on Explore America type of adventures, maybe we can get some in front of them. Much love, you guys. Many blessings from Kai. Kai also does his live streams on Friday afternoons with his beta fish. And I should just take a camera, put it on a beta fish, and let it run 24 hours. Michigan says you need to take a fishing trip and put that on that Fun Channel. And I just bought 2 new fishing rods, dude. I just bought 2 new rods. And I'll bet you a license for a visitor is pretty cheap in Wisconsin. Yeah, if we go across the board that way, if I go in your neighborhood, I'm probably going to drive all the way up. And then if that ferry's still available, then I may try that. You all have a beautiful day. Peace and love worldwide. Live your life before your life lives you. As soon as I end this live stream, I'm going to remember that last piece of news. But go back to the beginning. Jasmine Crockett is up shit creek. She's got Doge up her ass and wondering where the $10 million came from. Donald Trump there's not one judge in the country, federal judge in the country, that could give Donald Trump any shit. He's free to do whatever he wants. Peace and love worldwide. Live your life before your life lives you. And this is how you know when something's AI. The people in the background have no faces. Look at that. That looks like Nancy Pelosi right there. All right, later, y'all.